Okay, good morning. I'm chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, Delegate Luke Torian, and I represent the 24th District, House District located in Prince William County. This is one of our four virtual regional hearings on the state budget being held across the Commonwealth today by the Senate Finance and Appropriations and the House Appropriations Committee. Each year, the committee The committees are required by law to hold a series of public hearings on the governor's proposed budget to give all of you, the citizens of Virginia, the opportunity to comment on specific issues of concern to you. Today is your opportunity to talk, and our job as legislators is to listen to you. Let me take a moment before we begin to have the other legislators with us today introduce themselves. For members, committee staff will call out your name, and then you may restate your name and the district you represent. Committee staff.
Yeah, we'll start with Senator Servo.
I'm Scott Servo. I represent the 34th Senate District, which is Eastern Fairfax County. Good to be here.
Senator Pavola.
Good morning. I'm Senator Favola, and I represent the 40th Senate District, which is entirely contained within Arlington County. And thank you for joining us this morning.
Senator Boysko.
Thank you so much. I'm Senator Jennifer Boysko. I represent the 38th Senate District, which is Northern Fairfax County. Happy to be here.
Now to Delegate Krizek.
Good morning. My name is Paul Krizek, and I represent the people of the 16th District in Southeast Fairfax County.
And Delegate Reed.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Delegate David Reed, representing House District 28, which is in the eastern portion of Loudoun County. So glad to be here with you this morning.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's all that I see.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to start out with a few simple ground rules that would help our hearing today go smoothly, and at the same time give everyone the opportunity to be heard in a reasonable amount of time. First, when you signed up to speak, you received an email with a Zoom link for the hearing. As of this morning, the House Appropriation and the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee websites were updated to include a listing of each speaker who signed up to speak along with a number. That is the order in which you will be speaking today. Staff will from time to time call out those numbers along with the name from the sign-up list to give you an idea of how far we are down the list. If you're not present at your time to speak for whatever reason, then you will be allowed to speak at the end if you are present in the Zoom meeting. As we get closer to the number, staff will move you from the waiting area into the actual meeting room so that you can speak. However, please do not speak until your name is called. Remember to unmute yourself when your name is called to maximize transition time. We ask that you please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. That way, everyone can all be heard in a reasonable amount of time and no one will be left out. We will stay in the meeting until the last speaker who has signed up has had the opportunity to be heard. Please remember, near the end of your 3 minutes, a timer will sound. Please wrap up your comments at that time, and after you have completed speaking, staff will move you back into the waiting area where you can continue to watch the hearing or leave altogether. Finally, to hear as many issues as possible and to be respectful of the time of others in the audience, we ask that you avoid duplication when testifying. If there are several people speaking from the same group, we encourage you to have one spokesperson. You can always mention how many members of your group are listening to show your group's support for your cause. We're glad to be here, and I hope that each of us will learn something new today that we may not have thought about before. That's the big reason why we're here. Now, staff, will you call out the first speaker who is number one on your list?
Andy Rankin, you may begin.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Andy Rankin, and I am a resident of the City of Falls Church. I'm here with my daughter, Pearl. We call her PJ, and she recently turned 17. She was born with a rare genetic disorder called Mowat-Wilson syndrome, which leaves her with an intellectual disability, developmental delays, and limited expressive language. PJ is a happy kid who really enjoys school, animals, and babies. And while she is joyful, it does take a lot of time and effort to care for her. When she's not in school, she needs someone to attend to her pretty much all the time. We've struggled to find and keep employed attendants to help us. For a time, I had to work as a paid attendant. Thankfully, last year, we found a wonderful au pair who has become our attendant. This has allowed us to retain our respite hours, which any family with a special needs member can tell you are absolutely critical to maintaining a healthy life. It's heartbreaking to know that many families, unable to find anyone to work as an attendant, have ended up losing their respite hours just because they're serving as the paid attendant. These are the people who need respite more than anyone. I looked up the word respite. It means a short period of rest or relief from something difficult or unpleasant. No parent is going to tell you that caring for their disabled child is unpleasant, but it is certainly difficult. And all of those parents need and deserve respite. Also, I mentioned that PJ just turned 17, so we've started the process of setting up a guardianship. We're told that this process is likely to result in PJ never having the right to vote, which is something I hadn't considered. After 17 years of having a disabled child, I thought of many things, and I thought I had contemplated of all the ways that my life and her life would be different, but for some reason this one hadn't occurred to me. I understand it's a complex issue, but taking voting rights away from people with disabilities feels like unnecessarily adding yet another hurdle in their lives. These folks need more representation, not less. Even if PJ's actual voice is limited, her vote shouldn't be limited. It's important that we have a robust training for guardians ad litem, judges, and everyone else in our system so they understand how to communicate with our community and ensure that rights like the ability to vote are preserved. We all know how hard it is to regain those rights once they've been taken. So I'm asking you to help us with two things. First, please allow parents who, as a last resort, are serving as paid attendants to retain their respite support. They need that respite more than anyone else. And I ask that you work to improve the guardianship system. Nobody wants to be in a position where they need a guardianship. The least we can do is ensure that people going through that process are supported and have their rights protected. Thank you for letting me share these comments.
Our second speaker is Terry Lynch.
Good morning, senators, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Terry Lynch, and I am here speaking on behalf of the Virginia Association of Area Agencies on Aging, affectionately known as AAAs. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. The Virginia Association of Area Agencies on Aging is seeking a $4.35 million investment from the Commonwealth to address the ever-increasing unmet need for older adults in Virginia. This additional funding is critical to addressing not only the unmet need, but the growing demand to care for Virginia's residents as they age. Virginia's total population is expected to grow by 22% by 2050. The population age 60 and over will increase by 69% over the same period, and Virginia's most at risk and vulnerable population, those 85 and older, will more than quadruple. The critical services offered by AAAs include home care, personal care, transportation, home delivered and congregate meals, case management, the long-term care ombudsman, and Medicare counseling. These are basic services across Virginia's AAA network. The need for these services varies. However, ongoing services reveal significant unmet need across the Commonwealth and across critical services. The Virginia AAAs serve every locality in Virginia, helping older Virginians, 1.4 million strong, stay in their homes as they age. The costs of AAA services are supported by a combination of federal, state, local, and private dollars. Not only is staying in their homes preferred by older Virginians, it is the most cost-effective use of resources. It allows older Virginians to age in the community with dignity and support. Virginia's 25 area agencies on aging are your front line in supporting older Virginians who want to remain in their homes or the homes of family members. An investment in the AAA network and programs that elevate aging is cost savings for the Commonwealth. It is also an investment in the quality of life for older adults and their caregivers. Area agencies on aging serve tens of thousands of Virginians each year with healthy meals, community services, services addressing social determinants of health, transportation, and other essential supports that protect against declining health, hospitalization, and moving to nursing homes or other congregate settings that increase the cost to the older adult, the caregiver, and the Commonwealth. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Our third speaker is Robert Efert.
Well, Bob Eifert is having trouble signing in, so I guess you will pick him up at the end.
I'm in. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was having difficulty signing in this morning. Good morning. My name is Bob Eifert, and I'm representing the Northern Virginia Aging Network this morning. You just heard Terry Lynch speaking about the Virginia Association of Area Agencies on Aging. We certainly support them. The Northern Virginia Aging Network is composed of the 5 area agencies on aging and commissions on aging in Northern Virginia and the jurisdictions of Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William. And I know that I believe every single one of you on the committee are familiar with NVAN and familiar with our legislative breakfast, and I think most of you have attended. So thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your support. And I'm also here to speak to the need for services provided by local AAAs. As Terry Lynch just said, I don't know if she mentioned that she's a retired AAA director, Area Agency on Aging, sorry, not the Automobile Club. She's a retired AAA director, and so am I. I was AAA director way back, over 20 years ago in the city of Alexandria. And the services that area agencies on aging, the 25 area agencies on aging in Virginia provide are vital to our older Virginians. And in this era of tremendous uncertainty with what's coming up in the federal government, in fact, I believe that the Older Americans Act its reauthorization was removed from the compromise bill that just passed, the temporary funding bill. And so although we're still receiving federal funding, the authorization is at risk. So adding $4.3 million in funds is going to be just critical to the services that our local AAAs provide. And I urge your support of the budget amendments that would do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jessica Hubbard.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Hubbard, and I have lived in Fairfax for the last 15 years. I'm here today to tell you about my daughter, Ainsley. She's not with me, but this is Ainsley. She is a 9-year-old, and she is in 4th grade. When Ainsley was 3 months old, she started having seizures. First, just a few a day, but by the time she was 1, she was having many more than that, sometimes close to 100. She has a rare genetic condition called tuberous sclerosis. This causes non-cancerous tumors to grow in the organs of her body, and as a result, she is autistic, she has intellectual disabilities, developmental delays, as well as ADHD and anxiety and a couple other things sprinkled in as well. Ainsley has no verbal speech, but she has a lot to say. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, she made very clear what she wanted, including telling me on her talker, her communication device, I like markers, and asking Alexa to count down to Christmas. So then on Christmas morning, she was thrilled to receive multiple packs of markers and has been coloring all day, every day since then. I am a single working mother for a federal agency, and the Medicaid waiver has made our life possible. Before Ainsley had the waiver, I had to step back from full-time employment, and it is still essential that we have this waiver, but daily life is still a struggle to get her needs met. Finding qualified caregivers is extremely difficult given the complex needs that children on the waiver have, combined with what the waiver pays attendance. And Ainsley requires support to do almost anything, from toileting to feeding to support out in the community. Her communication requires an attendant who is familiar with her complex communication and is trained to support her in the home and out in the world. I am lucky to have one regular attendant, and many families like mine have no reliable or consistent attendant care. But there are periods of time when her attendant is not available. And during those times, I step in not just as her parent, but as her attendant and try to balance the rest of life's responsibilities. I have no family nearby, and school breaks are long, and the summer is the hardest time of year for us. But to have access to the small financial compensation to provide attendant care makes me ineligible to also receive respite care. So I'm speaking today for the many parents who have no choice but to become one of their child's attendants. Raising a child with a disability is hard under supportive circumstances, but then to lose access to that respite care, which is intended to give caregivers a much needed break, is unfair. Myself and other parents like me are already struggling, and to have to make this choice and then be penalized by having all of the respite opportunities for the year removed, it's overwhelming. I'm going to conclude with my ask to you today. Please consider Ainsley and families like ours as you make decisions for the next budget. The barriers that I shared with you in just the few moments that I had with you this morning are but a small snapshot of what is required to raise and support a child with multiple disabilities. Please support the ARC of Northern Virginia's agenda, including plans to study core services, funds to start new providers, and to plan to ensure that all families have respite care. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Donalda Jones.
Thank you. Good morning, General Assembly members. My name is Donalda Jones. I am the owner and CEO of Foundation Supportive Care LLC, a supportive living program in this beautiful state. I want to first thank each of you for your time and attention to this pressing matter. I sit in front of you all today seeking your support to continue to enhance the lives of Virginians with disabilities. Let's match the reimbursement rates for supported living, a service afforded under the Developmental Disability Medicaid waiver. Let's match that to those of group homes and push forward adjustments to the Medicaid Works program. These changes will ensure that individuals can live in spaces that suit their needs and work without fear of losing critical services. I have dedicated over 20 years of my life advocating for individuals with disabilities. I've had the privilege of working alongside them, helping them to not only live within their communities, but to thrive in them. This work has shown me that with access to the right combination of supports and in the right environments, everyone has the potential to succeed. Moreover, I have seen firsthand the difference supported living can make for individuals who have the basic skills and have a desire to live in an environment that celebrates and promotes true independence. An environment that provides customized supports in smaller residential settings. Sadly, programs like this are few and far between in Virginia, a fact that fueled the development of my company, Foundation Supportive Care, which does just that. Unfortunately, our program and its customized offerings are rare to find in the sea of group homes that flood our area. The truth is, many providers cannot afford to run a supported living program with the current rates, and they shy away from it, leaving the need for true independence unmet for many Virginians with disabilities. Another significant challenge to true independence are the barriers Virginians with disabilities face finding and maintaining meaningful employment. This is a result of the fact that they have to only accept jobs with low hours or they risk losing their benefits. Imagine finding your dream job and being told you can only work a few hours a week or you have to quit entirely just to keep the services that you rely on. I've seen this happen too often and it's heartbreaking. People should never have to choose between thriving at work and maintaining their support systems, which is the major issue of the current Medicaid work system. When individuals don't have access to the supported living opportunities like my program, they land in uncomfortable spaces, spaces that focus on what they cannot do rather than what they can, planting seeds of frustration, disappointment, and despair that can ultimately grow into an isolation, depression, and hopelessness for a real future. This is deepened with their desire to work meaningful jobs and earn a substantial wage, which is threatened at every turn. It is time for Virginia to demonstrate a commitment to true independence for disabled individuals and increase rates for supported living services and create more flexibility with the Medicaid Works program. Thank you for your time and for considering these essential changes. Together, we can create a more inclusive and equitable future.
Thank you. Our sixth speaker is Brent Hunsinger.
Yes, hello, good morning. My name is Brent Hunsinger, and I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of the Rappahannock. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I just want to speak briefly with you about two main budget priorities that Friends of the Rappahannock has for the upcoming General Assembly. The first one is regarding an increase in funding for environmental literacy. We are with partners trying to increase from $250,000 to $1 million environmental literacy funding for programs that are used as competitive grants through DCR to support meaningful watershed educational experiences and also for professional development and the creation of environmental literacy plans. Currently, we lag pretty far behind other Bay states. It is the hope of many that the Chesapeake Bay Commission members of Virginia are going to be championing this budget cause coming up this General Assembly. And number two is we all know that our rivers and our water supplies are being challenged by increased challenges from climate change and new water intensive industries as they kind of expand throughout Virginia. As well as our fisheries are in steep decline, think shad, striped bass, herring, and agriculture is being affected by increasing salinity levels in the Chesapeake Bay. All this to say that we are seeking $880,000 from the general fund for VIMS, the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, to study the cumulative impacts of surface water intakes on water quality, which would be specifically salinity, and aquatic fauna in the Chesapeake Bay and its major tributaries. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and look forward to working with you this upcoming General Assembly.
Thank you. Our seventh speaker is Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, if you could unmute and begin your testimony.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Michael Thomas, and I am the board president of the ARC of Northern Virginia, and have lived in Fairfax County for over 40 years. I'm here today speaking on behalf of our son, Drew Mitchell Thomas, and the 15,000 plus individuals who are on the DD waiver waiting list. Drew will turn 33 on January the 6th. He has severe intellectual and cognitive disabilities. He was born for rare de Morzay syndrome, which among other things causes low vision. And he also has a bilateral hearing loss and a seizure disorder. All of the above mentioned manifests as self-injuries behaviors at a very young age and still impacts who Drew is today. Drew has a smile that can light up a room through his nonverbal communications and can be warm, gentle, and loving. We were fortunate 22 years ago, we were able to secure a DDD waiver. When Drew lived at home, we used the waiver to provide extra support and respite through care attendance. The waiver has also provided support for his daily toileting needs and slight adaptations in our home to address his physical and behavioral needs. 10 years ago, Drew transitioned to a group home. The waiver helped us to secure a group home and day program placement equipped to address his complex needs with necessary support staff. We still have experienced some challenges with the waiver, and those challenges include not being able to find care attendants or enough appropriately trained attendants. Despite these challenges, we cannot imagine what our life would be like without the waiver. The waiver helps to keep our son safe with the necessary support and has allowed us to live productive lives. And more importantly, it has allowed us to stay together as a family in support of our son. It's difficult to think about Drew's quality of life and our lives without the waiver. Before the waiver, we faced unpredictable, overwhelming, and dangerous crises. My wife Karen and I ask that you make sure that in this budget year, you continue to focus on the 15,000 plus individuals who are on the DDD waiting list and are not eligible for DD services while they wait. We request your support so that the idea of core services as basic, highly efficient, and low-cost care to ensure that we keep families from waiting in limbo for years or sometimes decades for a waiver, and to help us avoid crises and better plan. Core services can help hold families together by offering essential breaks each week and a case manager to guide people towards other resources. We ask that the General Assembly fund the $250,000 request to study core services and to ultimately fulfill any proposals to put them into action. The individuals on the DD waiting list depend on you to help them achieve a quality of life that each of them deserves. We thank you for your past work on disability issues and your time this morning. We look forward to continue to work in partnership with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our 8th speaker is Grace Reef.
Hi, good morning. My name is Grace Reef, and I'm speaking on behalf of Childcare Aware Virginia. We are a statewide nonprofit network that supports families to find childcare and works with childcare providers to become licensed and offer high quality care. Today, I want to talk to you about 3 sentences contained in the governor's proposed budget. Item 126.10 related to Section B, childcare subsidy, specifically item 6. Item 6 says, and I'm quoting, to promote school readiness and support working parents with birth to 5 children, no additional school-age children may be enrolled in the childcare subsidy program as of July 1st, 2025, unless they qualify as hard to serve. The Department of Education shall define hard to serve no later than July 1st, 2025. First, I think we all know childcare is expensive. It's hard for families to afford. Yet many families need childcare in order to work. Since state childcare subsidy funds ran out in July, about 13,000 children are on waiting lists throughout the state. About 30% of those children are school age. To pause receipt of childcare subsidy for families with school-age children is just unfair policy. Already, Virginia is one of the only states with a 2-tiered eligibility system for childcare subsidy. If a family has only children under age 5, they can earn up to 85% of state median income. If that family also has a school-age child, then that school-age child is eligible for subsidy as well. But if the family only has school-age children, income eligibility is much lower. It's between 150% and 250% of the federal poverty level and varies by locality. What's that mean in practical terms? At 150% of the poverty level, eligibility maxes out at $38,700 for a family of 3 with school-age children, compared to $95,600 for a family with children under 5. For a family of 3 at 250% of the poverty level, eligibility for a family of 3 maxes out at $64,500, compared to $95,600 for a family with children under 5. Families with school-age children may not know about this current 2-tiered system. They certainly will know when subsidy intake is frozen for them, particularly with the July 1st starting date, since most school-age children are out of school in the summer and parents are scrambling for summer care arrangements. While there's some vague language about hard-to-serve families or children, that's a roll of the dice. Childcare is expensive for families with children under age 5, but it's also expensive for children in elementary school. The 2-tiered income eligibility system needs to be reviewed for fairness. But to outright stop subsidy receipt for families with school-age children, that brings unfairness to new heights. Please appropriate funds to clear the subsidy waiting list of all eligible children, not just the youngest. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. All right, looks like Carol Paquette is not on, so we will go on to Joanne Acito.
Good morning. I'm talking to you today in reference to
representing Virginia Access as the governmental affairs chairperson. I also work now at Eggleston Services, but I enjoy, I'm a former Northern Virginia resident. So I'm talking to you all today. I'm going to try to consolidate my talking to 1 3-minute speech because I did sign up for 2. For Virginia Access, as you've heard from some of the families that have already spoken, there are issues that continue with Medicaid waiver rates. At this point in time, Virginia Access will be putting forward a budget amendment which would cover some of the services that you've heard about: respite care, supportive living. It's going to be a large ask because at this point in time, our staff are paid less, as you all know, than people who work at Costco or at Lowe's. My kid works at Lowe's. She makes more than some of the DSPs that we hire and work with. We have to increase the rate in order to increase our staffing so that we can not only support the current people, the 15,000 who are currently in services, as well as the 3,440 that are still waiting. That, we're very appreciative of the governor's initiative to deal with the priority 1 waiting list, but we need funds in order to do this. You all might say, well, there's the DMAS rate study that's going to be happening. That was put together with no input from the provider community. And Virginia Access has submitted 9 pages of initial comments to Guidehouse, the company that has been hired to do this rate study. The time frame is absurd in terms of how quickly they want to get the rate study done. And we have very strong concerns about the methodology and how the data will be collected. Virginia Access does support the lettuce and EES funds combined that has been put into the governor's budget as language. The combination of these 2 funds will allow more people to maintain services and have employment opportunities. I'm now going to quickly switch hats, and this will get us an additional 3 minutes for other people to listen. Eggleston is part of the Brain Injury Alliance. I work for Eggleston Services now. We provide both a clubhouse and a case management model to brain injury survivors. There will be 2 budget amendments put forward by the Brain Injury Alliance, which Eggleston is in full support of. One is to continue funding for workforce retention, for there to be competitive wages, for us to fill staffing needs. There also will be a request for strengthening safety net community-based services, which we are endorsing as well. So we look forward to working with you all this year. Virginia Access has hired Deborah Rodman to work as our lobbyist this year. I believe most of you know that Karen Tefelsky did pass away this fall. Karen was very much a part of our thought process for this session, and we will be carrying on in her name. Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Lenorelle Thomas.
Good morning. My name is Lenorelle Thomas, and I serve as the president of SEIU Virginia 512. Our members are city and county employees from across Northern Virginia and Richmond, and home care providers across the Commonwealth. Daily, we hear from working people who share not only challenges in the workplace, but also challenges in their communities. We hear from city and county employees being asked to do more work with less resources and address challenges that could have been resolved had their ideas been incorporated from the beginning. We hear from home care providers who save Virginia millions of dollars each year, but continue to receive less and less with more requirements and restrictions implemented without their input. Did you know the vast majority of home care providers in Virginia earn less than $15 an hour? In 2025, in an economy where prices are at an all-time high, care providers are expected to live and provide for themselves on less than $15 an hour. Across Virginia today, SEIU members are sharing their stories of why this has to change. Just this morning, we've already heard from several community members who've highlighted their challenges with hiring and retaining care providers. Let me be the first to say there is not a shortage of providers. There's a shortage of home care providers who can afford to work for pennies. Care work has always been an essential need, and now more than ever, consumers and families are making the decision to stay and keep their loved ones at home. Home care is the fastest growing profession, and 1 million new care providers are needed over the next 10 years to keep up with the demand. How will Virginia meet this demand? No matter where we come from, what we do for a living, where we work, or the color of our skin, Virginia's working people want the same things: family sustaining wages, paid leave, quality health care, justice at work and in our communities, and a vibrant democracy where we can all participate. So how do we do that? In this 2025 legislative session, we are asking you all to pass collective bargaining rights for all public employees, including home care providers. We must make sure that home care providers are not left out of collective bargaining rights. We need to make sure that all hardworking Virginians have a seat at the table. We need to raise our salaries to a living wage across the Commonwealth. Honestly, $15 is no longer enough. We need to move beyond that to have a living wage. And we also need to make sure that we don't have systems that make it difficult to process time worked for home care providers. Lastly, we need to repeal the 16-hour cap and allow home care providers to continue to provide the vital care our consumers need and depend on to survive. Thank you all so much for your time today.
Thank you. Number 13 on our list is Mary McFarland. Mary, you can begin speaking whenever you're ready. Mary McFarland, are you ready to speak? Okay. Samira Brooks, if you want to go ahead. Samira Brooks, you can begin since we cannot hear Mary McFarland.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samira Brooks. I have been a home care worker for over 23 years. I started at a wage of $6.50 23 years ago. I am now at the wage of $11 per hour 23 years later. I have struggled to manage my livelihood with the wages that I had been given. Due to working 60 to 80 hours per week to have extra money outside of bills that I also use to help take care of my grandmother, twin daughters, and a son. I would love for you to trade places with myself and other home care workers. Take off your suits and ties, dresses and skirts, put on a pair of scrubs, and do what I do for a living. Then turn around and have to stand in front of a committee of people explaining to them the value, the need, the want, the desire, and what you deserve. No one should have to beg for a sufficient living wage. No one should still be at the lower end of the wage bracket after 10 to 20 years on the same job. No one should question, why do I stay in this field? Trust me, it isn't because of the wages that we do this work. It is because it is embedded in us and we are needed in this field. We do what family members don't want to do for other family members. We provide dignity, compassion, hope, love, while a person continues to stay in their home. We use our body as equipment by lifting, turning, pulling, bathing, performing all ADLs that one cannot do for themselves, only to be told you're not worth higher pay. You should only work these amount of hours at this low pay. So I stand before you, not in humbleness, but with a bitter and sour taste in my mouth, a illmatic feeling over my body, a confused mind, because 23 years later, I am still not receiving a wage worthy of the work that I have put in. I cannot retire with a 401k plan. I may never be able to retire from this work. Yes, this is my choice, of course. But aren't you working in the field that you chose? We want, we need, and we will fight for collective bargaining. We will fight against the 16-hour cap. We will do all in our power to fight for what we want and what we deserve. It is also right. We as caretakers give up so much. Don't we all deserve adequate pay and collective bargaining? Why are people who don't do the work but are able to make decisions about how much we deserve to be paid per hour and how many hours we can work and cannot work for our pay? Before I end, I want to put you in my shoes with the understanding that one day this will happen to you or a close family member. Ask yourself, what happens when you need care? Your wife, your mother, your father, a sibling, one of your children or grandchildren. What happens when one of your family members becomes disabled or sick and requires 24-hour care? Do you put them in a facility for care or receive care from the comfort of their home? The caretaker you trust and love can only be with your loved ones 16 hours per day, but they need 24 hours of care. Do you stop working, though you cannot afford to? Let's tilt the table even more. You are the caretaker. No one will provide the care for your parents, child, or spouse like you. DMAS is now telling you you can only get paid for 16 hours, though you provide 24 hours. What will you do? You have the power to make all this right. What will you do? I digress. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary McFarland, if you want to try to speak again. Mary McFarland, if you could unmute yourself and begin your testimony. All right. All right, we'll move on. Gary Curry, you could begin.
Thank you, members of the House Appropriations and Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to provide comment today. My name is Gary Curry. I'm the County Administrator for Rappahannock County, Virginia. Fiscal forecasts for the Commonwealth provide the General Assembly a unique opportunity to make significant strides toward implementing key recommendations from the JLARC report regarding Virginia's K-12 funding. JLARC recommendation number 4 in particular is to eliminate Great Recession era caps on funding, and we in Rappahannock County support this important recommendation. Current General Assembly members cannot be expected to know about one-off caps that were also implemented during the Great Recession. The well-known caps are not the only caps that were put in place at that time. It's very important to Rappahannock County that the 2008 cap on supplemental basic aid be eliminated during this session. Without the removal of the 2008 supplemental basic aid cap, any education funding reforms agreed to by the General Assembly and the governor during this session will be muted for only Rappahannock County Public Schools. This obscure cap froze our combined basic aid plus supplemental basic aid state funding at 2007 levels. While the 2008 cap is in place, increases to basic aid only serve to supplant the supplemental basic aid that we already receive, rather than increase our total aid. This important issue is unique to Rappahannock County Public Schools. Rappahannock County Public Schools already receives the absolute lowest amount of per pupil operational funding from the Commonwealth of Virginia, and our citizens cannot afford to have that position eroded further. Logically, the lowest amount of operational funding per pupil should be received by the wealthiest community in the state, not Rappahannock County, that does not even have a traffic signal. This is a very detailed and in-depth topic, and more information is available if you're interested through an op-ed that the superintendent of schools and I wrote for Cardinal News called "It's Time to Graduate from the Great Recession Era Funding Gaps, an opportunity for partnership with policymakers to bring fair funding to Rappahannock County Public Schools." Thank you again for helping Rappahannock County students and citizens by removing the 2008 Great Recession era cap on supplemental basic aid.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jessica Roberts. Jessica, if you could unmute yourself and please begin your testimony. Jessica, I believe you're still muted. All right, we will come back to you. Erica Wood, if you would like to begin your testimony, please.
Good morning. I am Erica Wood, and I will be talking about RAFT. RAFT is the Regional Older Adults Facility Mental Health Support Team, a high priority for the Northern Virginia Network, for the Northern Virginia Aging Network over the years. Imagine if you were an older adult patient living in a Piedmont geriatric state mental health facility. Your doctor says you can be discharged to a less restrictive setting, such as a nursing home or assisted living closer to your family in Northern Virginia. But many such long-term care facilities are reluctant to accept patients from Piedmont or similar mental health hospitals because it's simply too challenging and too time-consuming given staffing constraints. Enter RAFT. RAFT supports facilities in admitting and caring for such older adult mental health residents. RAFT provides direct, intensive mental health services to older adults, as well as trainings and consultations to assisted living and nursing home staff. RAFT has been successfully supporting older adults with mental illness for 15 years. RAFT not only improves the quality of life for older adults, it supports families, it's a cost-effective program, and it's a key component, really, of the state's overall psychiatric system. Annual RAFT funding has remained constant at just over $1 million since its beginning in 2009, with $500,000 from federal sources and the rest from the State Department of Behavioral Health and Disability Services. But since 2009, costs have increased and community demand has grown. RAFT will face a funding shortfall. We ask for your ongoing support, for your support for ongoing funds to sustain the RAFT program, a unique and wonderful program. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Roberts, if you'd like to try to speak now. All right, Jessica, we will come. Oh, are you there? Okay, great.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much for having me here and letting me speak. I'm Dr. Jess Roberts. I'm a longtime resident of Virginia, currently living in Arlington. I went to George Mason, but I've lived in Southern and Western Virginia as well. I'm also currently the Director of Habitat Connectivity at Wild Virginia to protect the natural resources of the state I call home. Throughout my time here living in Virginia, I have seen firsthand how our current road infrastructure fragments our landscapes and cars decimate our native wildlife populations. I also have too many friends and family members that have experienced firsthand wildlife fuel conflict. They escaped with their lives, but they came away with totaled vehicles and high medical costs. I'm here to urge you to support a budget amendment for funding wildlife crossing projects in Virginia. Virginia currently ranks 9th in the nation for wildlife fuel conflict. This is actually a statistic that is getting worse over the course of the years, not better. We have over 60,000 deer vehicle crashes annually. Each incident costs $41,000 in state and personal costs, according to our Virginia Transportation Research Council, and they endanger lives. Despite these alarming numbers, our state agencies lack dedicated funding to implement the Wildlife Corridor Action Plan. They were required to do this action plan. They received no additional funding to do so. And according to our Virginia Research Council, wildlife crossings, such as underpasses and exclusionary fencing, can reduce wildlife fuel conflict by 96% in that area. These crossings not only save lives, but they also can improve the flood resilience of that area if we include natural stream banks and channels. Properly designed infrastructure can prevent road washouts, reduce taxpayer burdens, and provide safe passage for both aquatic and terrestrial species. This budget amendment would be a vital step forward. It would allow Virginians to advance essential wildlife crossing projects, secure federal funding, and protect our community's ecosystems and economy. By investing in this initiative, we can mitigate wildlife fuel conflict, preserve biodiversity, and create infrastructure that meets the challenges of a changing climate. I respectfully ask for your support for this amendment to build a safer and more resilient Virginia. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle McKinney.
Hello, I am Michelle McKinney. I'm resident of rural Northern Virginia, Rappahannock County, SD 28 and HD 61. I'm speaking today to voice my support for school funding for Rappahannock County schools. I have no technical or financial expertise on this. Rather, I'm speaking as a parent and a public school supporter. Raising kids is hard, scary at times, and it truly takes a village to do it well. I was a young single parent, and I depended heavily on the resources and support of my son's school to get through it, especially in the elementary school years. I bring this all up to gently and respectfully remind everyone that a school is more than a building, and that is especially true in a rural area. On a Sunday morning, the community is scattered between 20 different places of worship, coffee houses, and nature trails. But on a Friday night in the fall, all those scattered residents come together to watch the high school football team play. Friday night lights in a rural county is truly a magical thing. Along with community unity and pride, our public schools provide free breakfast and lunch for all the kids. We qualify for free meals across the board. This need to serve all requires the organization and resources that only a public school can do at scale. There is also now a telehealth nurse mini clinic in the school that provides health services, not just for the students, but also the teachers, school staff, and their individual kids. In rural areas, there are no close pharmacies, doctor's offices, or Instacare clinics. Having community health resources inside the school is a vital resource to so many in our community. I would like to close by saying that I will be forever grateful for the human investment and emotional support my family received from Rappahannock County Public Schools. Currently, there are many families just like mine in the county, but the schools are struggling to keep up with in these challenging times. Strong public schools are vital for rural communities. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Our 19th speaker is Jane King.
Hello, and thank you for letting me speak today on behalf of the Northern Virginia Aging Network. And I will be speaking today on SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is a federal program which supports greater access to nourishing food for those whose incomes limit their purchasing power. Eddie Oliver, the executive director of the Federation of Virginia Food Banks, calls food insecurity a hidden crisis in the Commonwealth. He states that fixed incomes and medical expenses make older adults particularly susceptible to food insecurity. SNAP then provides life-giving benefits to many older Virginians. Frank Woodson is an example. He runs a food bank in Richmond that is sponsored by local charities. He is able to do this because his own health is maintained through the nourishment that his eligibility for SNAP allows him. But he in turn offers support to others by offering food provided by charities community members and helps those who are eligible apply for SNAP benefits themselves. The benefits of SNAP are, however, limited by its federal monthly benefit of $23 in Virginia. Exacerbating the severity of this limited amount is continuing inflation in food prices. Increasing the minimum amount of the SNAP benefit has become essential absolutely essential for the health of many older Virginians. Oliver notes that the current federal $23 SNAP benefit is insufficient to the point that many who are eligible do not regard it as worth engaging in the complex application process. 3 out of 5 eligible older Virginians are not enrolled. Anyone who has shopped for groceries in recent months would understand why the $23 allowance might not be a compelling inducement. Nourishing food supports overall health. North Carolina has found that its support for and participation in SNAP helps to reduce its cost for Medicaid. Several other states supplement the meager federal minimum benefit, but Virginia does not. NVAN urges your support of a supplement for the federal minimum SNAP benefit of $27 to bring the total minimum benefit to $50 per month for older residents. Older recipients. And it is not an exaggeration to suggest that Virginia could benefit, as North Carolina has, with increased SNAP availability, reducing its costs for Medicaid. Thank you very much for hearing our NVAN priority.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Musso. Oh, sorry, John Musso.
Good morning, members of the committee. I would just like to reiterate, I'm John Musso, Government Affairs Manager of the Arlington Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Arlington Chamber, we had submitted some brief written testimony, specifically supporting the proposed budget amendments concerning the workforce development programs and the funding to combat child care deficits. So I just want to reiterate, we do support those two categories of budget amendments, and we believe it will, both of them will positively impact the state of workforce development and child care for workers throughout the Commonwealth. So thank you.
Thank you. Ann Murphy. We have Ann Murphy on. Okay, we can move ahead to Katie Schnittger.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the critical budget needs for brain injury survivors in Virginia. My name is Katie Schnittler, and I serve as the Outreach and Advocacy Manager at Brain Injury Services. But most importantly, I'm a brain injury survivor. My life changed forever in 2007 when I sustained a traumatic brain injury in a catastrophic fireworks accident. My injuries were numerous and severe, and while my body began to heal, I realized that the aftermath of my brain injury extended far beyond physical recovery. One by one, my medical providers told me there was nothing more they could do, yet I was still struggling to navigate life, to rebuild a sense of normalcy, and to find hope for the future. It wasn't until 2010 that I discovered Brain Injury Services and the invaluable support they provide to survivors like me. Through their support, I relearned essential skills, rebuilt my confidence, and ultimately returned to work. Brain Injury Services didn't just help me recover, they helped me create a new foundation for my life and my family's future. Today, as Outreach and Advocacy Manager, my mission is clear: to raise awareness so that other survivors and their families can access the critical support provided by brain injury service providers throughout the Commonwealth. Brain Injury Services was there when I needed them most, but many other survivors are still waiting for the chance to heal and rebuild their lives. That's why I'm here today. I urge this body to prioritize the budget request for workforce retention and strengthen our safety net, community-based service system. Together, we can build a more equitable and effective system for Virginians with brain injury. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your commitment to supporting survivors like me. I would now like to turn this over to another client of Brain Injury Services, Henry Consiglio.
Good morning, honorable members of the Virginia Appropriations Committee. It's a privilege to speak before you today, and I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity. I want to extend my sincere thanks to Donna Metzler, Chief Operating Officer, and Katie Schnitker, Outreach and Advocacy Manager, for their unwavering commitment to Brain Injury Services, BIS, and for allowing me to represent their clients and the many future clients across Virginia who will one day depend on their services. The brain injury service providers in Virginia not only help individuals recover their lost productivity and regain their life purpose, but they also save taxpayers money in the process. These services are a wise investment in human potential and community well-being. I can personally attest to the life-changing impact of BIS. They are a dedicated group of compassionate and skilled individuals who have answered a profound calling to serve. Their work transforms lives, not just for civilians like me, but also for first responders and veterans. I know this because I've experienced it. I'm emerging from what doctors call a 3-decade conscious coma brought on by multiple traumatic brain injuries. When I became a client of Brain Injury Services in July 2021, it was a turning point in my life. BIS has been one of the greatest blessings since I suffered a head injury while serving in the Army decades ago. With their support, I'm not just surviving, I am reclaiming my life. Today, I'm here to respectfully request that the legislature allocates additional funding for brain injury services. This request is not about what BIS can do for me. Rather, it's about what your action can empower BIS to do for countless Virginians, individuals who are all waiting for the chance to heal, rebuild, and thrive. Thank you for your time, for your attention, and your thoughtfulness and consideration of this vital funding need. Together, we can ensure that no Virginian is left behind and without the support they deserve on their journey to recovery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ann Murphy, if you're on, could you unmute and begin your testimony? Okay. Cheryl Binkley, you can begin.
Good morning. And first, let me thank you all for the hard and complicated and often thankless work that you do for us every year. I'm Cheryl Binkley, here for Public Education, which promotes public funding for public schools and support for our public schools. I'm here to talk about the governor's amendments, which do not meet the needs of Virginia's public schools. In spite of a surplus of $3 billion, the governor does not recommend implementing any of the JLARC immediate recommendations and leaves our schools and families working at below national averages for state funding and state salaries. There are 4 other places that the governor is recommending to spend money. One is a new venture that is $50 million for private school vouchers, which the governor euphemistically calls opportunity scholarships, which would provide $5,000 for private tuition in an environment where average private tuition is $14,000. It becomes the equivalent of a tax break for those already able to pay for for private vouchers. There are 7 states that have implemented a similar program, and all 7 states have experienced some of the most drastic, chaotic, ugly results that exist in education policy, such as blowing up the budgets, reducing the performance of the public schools, and
not improving statewide performance for any of the students. The other things are he has a $66 million new testing contract, which is to implement, which is far higher than anything we've seen before, and includes new testing at a time when the state parents and schools have been asking for lower testing numbers and hours for many years. That $66 million also supports his additional $50 million for his accountability framework, but the accountability framework has none of the corrections that were asked for during the development phases. And the money actually goes to consultants who will be instructing our schools on how to be better instead of providing resources that could enable underfunded schools to have the resources they need to be better. I would like to thank those on this committee who have already done one of the few things that could be a positive of this framework, which is to present a bill for testing in native languages for those who are English learners. We are going to be, due to his accountability framework, we're going to be demanding that those students pass their scores, their tests much earlier. And in order to do that, we need this added support. The governor wants to put $25 million into additional lab schools. The lab schools piggyback on our dual enrollment programs, but do not enhance our dual enrollment programs, and in fact, interrupt and undermine and put in place an additional layer of expensive managerial jobs that do not help our schools to improve our dual enrollment programs. Dual enrollment, we need more dual enrollment teachers, and that requires additional training, but that's not included in what the lab schools frameworks require. So we're asking you to fund real resources instead of chasing initiatives that have failed in every state and been destructive to students and communities in those states. We're asking you to help students in less affluent localities by providing the adequate state funding rather than punitive consultant supervision. Fund the JLARC study, leave the governor's fairy tales behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Overton McGehee.
Senators and delegates, thank you for allowing us to speak. I'm Overton McGee with Habitat for Humanity Virginia. We're the support organization for the 36 Habitat affiliates in Virginia. We're here to speak about two housing pilot projects. They're budget items 102M and 102N. We respectfully request that the Senate Finance Committee and House Appropriation Committee reject the portion of the governor's budget amendment which proposed to strike those two pilot projects. We ask that you restore both pilot projects as contained in the biennium budget as signed into law last summer. Many of you supported these two pilot projects in the 2024 General Assembly session, and we thank you for that. Delegates Krizek and Bulova were among the patrons. 102M is a $5 million pilot project to provide loan funds to help mobile home park residents or nonprofit organizations buy mobile home parks to prevent displacement. In recent years, nonprofits have bought 5 mobile home parks to prevent displacement. Those were 1 in Albemarle, 2 in Charlottesville, 1 in Manassas, and 1 in Chesterfield. One of these, Southwood Mobile Home Park in Albemarle, has been rezoned for 1,200 units. It's the largest habitat mixed income project in the United States and will prevent the displacement of 351 low-income families who live there. But every year across the Commonwealth, many more mobile home parks are sold to large investment groups, and low-income residents are displaced or priced out of their homes. Nonprofits have recently been unsuccessful in attempts to buy mobile home parks in Southwest Virginia, in Fairfax, and in Loudoun. This is affordable housing that's disappearing in Virginia. This loan fund is sorely needed to preserve affordable housing in Virginia. Number 102N is a $5 million pilot project to provide funds for down payment assistance for home buyers who earn less than 60% of area median income. This funding will greatly increase the number of low-income Virginians who will become homeowners in 2025. As you know, homeownership is very empowering for hardworking low-income families. Homeownership can transform the stability of families for generations. This pilot project will be particularly useful for rural families and families coming out of public housing. The budget called for the guidelines for these two pilot projects to be created by December 1st, 2024, a month ago. Nonprofit organizations across Virginia expected to be using these funds this month. They did not expect them, obviously, to be cut after the date the programs were supposed to start, according to the budget signed into law last summer. Thank you so much for considering our request, and thank you for your ongoing support for hard-working Virginia families who aspire to purchase a home or to remain in their mobile home. Thank you.
Thank you. Our 27th speaker on the list is Christina Nicole. Begin whenever you're ready, Christina.
Good morning. My name is Christina Nicole. I'm the Director of Operations for the Arc of Greater Prince William. And I'd just like to read a brief statement on behalf of our organization. The Arc of Greater Prince William supports the legislative agenda of the Arc of Virginia and wishes to bring to your attention some concerns. To document the true cost of providing services to Virginians with disabilities, we are grateful the General Assembly and DOJ has required a third-party study of provider rates. However, unless DMAS includes provider input and allows a reasonable timeline to develop study, the trained staff and obtain data, these efforts and budgets will be wasted. Until the study is complete, providers need a rate increase and, as we continue to have a workforce shortage. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Janelle Gilmer. Janelle,
Hello.
if you could, oh, yep, there you go.
Sorry about that. I was writing my notes. I'm hearing, come on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Turn someone. Oh, there I am. Good morning. I'm Janelle Gilmer. I'm a self-advocate. I used to be very involved more than I am now with the, for those within the Virginia ARC, they know I'm part of the ARC. I've been part of the ARC since I've been growing up. I'm also in the program. I've been a liaison on a group that I was part of through my ARC chapter here in Prince William. I've been on there for over about going 6 years now, since 2019, and we advocate and we speak up for those that want a life like yours. I've been coming to these meetings that we're on today. I came a couple times. Some of you may know me or remember me or familiar. Some of you are maybe new or don't know. I've been advocating because I have a disability, and I've been, say that I have a disability, and I know that I have learning disability, and it's a little bit more better, and not as some other disabilities, but I'm accepting of it, and I come to be there for other people just like myself that are different, but about the same at the same time. And there's some things I want to bring to you today. And one of the things is that for me myself, I want to have some kind of interactions, engagements to be different, and to just be able to be like most people, but also take care of myself to meet the daily functions of living. There's certain things like I have a hard time doing, and I want to advocate for myself too, and to be get back into some of the things I used to do that is helping me to progress and be there for those who also are who also are going through the same things that I'm going through. And part of what I want to talk today about is for those that will need services. I need support and services. I actually work full time here at the Archival of Prince William. And, we do come to these meetings, we do advocate, we do it, when it happens one time a year. And for those who are in my struggle, we don't sometimes have the supports and services that we need. And, I have some supports, but I don't get much assistance now that I work full time. And I used to get more, like SNAP and just things you need, social exercise and stuff like that, like benefits. And, I feel like for those who are going to need help when they're being taken care of, once they don't have somebody there for them, it'll be good to have those, like for the providers, people who are in direct demand care, taking care of those that have need someone to be there for them 24/7 or half the day, which I don't require that much care, but it's just, it'll be nice just to have like more of a plan and like provider rates, because without the rates and ending the waiting list, it's just going to take more and more time. And also, I just want to say, if you can please end the waiting list for DD waivers, and also for priority 1 and 2, and increase the wages for the providers, that'd be great. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Keenan.
Good morning. Not sure how to turn on my camera, so you'll just have to look at my box there with my name. I am Susan Keenan. I am a member of the Virginia Network for Private Providers Board. I am a resident of the Fairfax County portion of Falls Church, and I am the proud executive director of Community Living Alternatives. We're an organization that provides housing and supports for 49 amazing adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I want to thank you for your previous support, and including the anticipated 3% rate increase. As Janelle so eloquently just said, we are thankful for that, but not knowing when and how often we can count on those rate increases creates a lot of anxiety for our workforce and for those people who are being supported by our workforce. We had double-digit increases in groceries and insurance, and the regulatory compliance that we need to endure. All of those things cost a great deal of money, and we want to be able to continue the great work that we did on increasing our workforce and recruiting and retaining that wonderful, competent, and reliable and well-rested staff, so that they can help continue to support men and women like Janelle to make sure they are safe and that they are growing and engaged in activities that are important to and for them. So I hope that you will consider continuing a routine increase so that this workforce continues to grow and stay strong. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Stephanie Ritter.
Hello, my name's Stephanie Ritter, and I live in Flint Hill, Virginia, which is in Rappahannock County, and I've been here for some 44 years. First, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to all of our concerns, and I really appreciate your public service. I serve on a few boards myself, and it's both time-consuming and difficult, so thank you so much. I'm also chair of the Headwaters Foundation, which is the public school foundation in Rappahannock County, and so I'm intimately involved with the with the school and knowledgeable about the critical needs that we have in our public schools. As you know, Rappahannock is a rural county, and a substantial portion of the kids who attend our public schools are below the poverty line. And so to say that it's a wealthy county, I think is really a misnomer. As a consequence, as you know from the JLARC studies, that rural counties are in need of greater funding because we have higher needs, we have transportation, we have all kinds of needs that urban schools don't have, and we also have less available funding. Most of our funds are most of our property taxes come from agricultural lands, which is, as you know, taxed at a lower rate. We also don't have a lot of businesses here, so we don't generate a lot of profit from that. The effect of the current funding for public schools is that Rappahannock is now receiving so little state funding that we have the lowest amount of public funding per pupil for our operational costs, which is a substantial burden on our population. And it's not as if the population isn't stepping forward to the extent that it can, but we can only do so much. In recognition of the fact that rural counties receive less public funding many years ago, what the legislature did was to create what we call the basic aid supplement. And that's been existent for many years. But in 2008, as a result of the recession, a cap was put on that funding. And currently, Rappahannock County is the only county that is affected by that cap placed on it in 2008. The effect of that is that we receive the same amount of basic aid that we were receiving in 2007, which is clearly not enough. And what we are asking, and I actually have been to the legislature many times over the last few years, trying to persuade members to remove this cap. And I'm hoping that this is the golden year for us. If you just remove the cap on the supplemental basic aid, that will provide sufficient funding for Rappahannock Public Schools so that we can really thrive. So I'm hoping that you will remove the cap, create the language to remove the cap, and restore Rappahannock Public School funding to the pre-recession levels. Anyway, I thank you so much for your time and all your efforts, and I hope that you will see a way forward on this. And take care. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Letitia Porter.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Okay. So hi, my name is Letitia Porter of Prince William County. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak today. My husband and I's daughter's name is Destiny Kennedy Porter. She was born November of 2021 at 25 weeks, 4 days, and 1 pound, 1 ounce. And I'm not sure if you all can see myself. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So I just wanted to show a picture of her. This was her back in November of 2021 at 1 pound, 1 ounce. She spent a long 4 months in the NICU on ventilators and on wall oxygen. She was discharged March of 2022 on oxygen. So during the first few months of her life, it was very hard. It was very challenging to take care of a premature child. She's considered a micro preemie because she was born prior to 28 weeks. Along with that was dealing with my own postpartum issues. She suffers from chronic lung disease and reflux issues. So feeding became very challenging, and also her physical development needs. Shortly after being discharged, I contacted Prince William County's early intervention program, and the next journey began. The entire team was great, from the coordinator, the physical therapy, speech therapist, occupational therapist. They all provided a glimpse of hope. I knew we were in good hands. We were able to get in when she was about 8 months old. And each and every assessment that we have, it was very nerve-wracking because I just never knew if she would ever get better, but she did. They provided us with the utmost professional care. We followed their advice, their suggestions, and over time, Destiny began to exceed in her development milestones. It was amazing to watch her over the past 3 years and her progress. Almost anyone who meets her today, they can't believe she's an ex-25 weeker that was born so premature. November of last year, she graduated from the program. So without the program, without early intervention program, we wouldn't be here today. She's our sassy, bossy, beautiful little girl. She's truly a success story. That is why I urge you all to approve and support any of the budget for the early intervention program, because it really was a true impact to our family and friends to see Destiny grow up to be, as she is today. It works. It really allows our parents and the caregivers that there is a glimmer of hope and that their child can get the help that they need. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Paul Gallagher.
Good morning, committee members and fellow citizens. I'm Paul Gallagher, Prince William County resident and father of a 27-year-old son, Joey, that is intellectually and developmentally disabled adult on the autism spectrum. Joey and I benefit immensely from direct care professional support. I'm also a CRI board member. While CRI respects the governor's positivity around the roaring Virginia economy that has so much surplus money that there should be additional tax relief, we would offer another place to invest some of that money, one stabilizing the workforce of the care community, those who support and lift up our fellow citizens who have developmental disabilities and mental health needs and deserve to have choice, respect, independence, and the ability to thrive. With current funding, every day is a balancing act for providers for our valued direct care professionals who often work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. With the necessary funding, the entire care community, caregivers who support people of all ages with all kinds of needs could be improved, which would translate to helping all of Virginia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Tammy Wandong. Tammy, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, senators and delegates. I'm Tammy Wandong. I'm a Prince William County resident, and I live in Triangle, Virginia. I'm a member of SEIU Virginia 512 for the past 15 years, and I currently serve as president for the Fairfax chapter. I am employed with Fairfax County Government and Family Services. I am a 35-year employee, and at present I work in the Adult and Aging Division. I service my community by providing home-based assessments for residents who need services and resources in their home. The home-based program is income-based. I am here today to share SEIU Virginia 512 agenda in support of building a Virginia economy that works for all working families. As we see and feel impacts of our present economic status, many Virginians are not benefiting from the economic growth our hard work creates. I am often in the presence of families who cannot afford health insurance, healthy food, increased rent, and utilities. Virginia may rank as the best state for business, but Virginia ranked as the 26th best state for working people according to Oxfam America. Virginia can better support the working families who power our economy. We can create more union jobs that pay Virginians reasonable salaries to take care of their families and contribute more to thriving communities. The issues that we see that working people across Virginia are joining SEIU and other local unions at historic levels to win living wages, benefits, and dignity that we all deserve. Our ask to Virginia's elected leaders is to focus on legislation and budgets this year that will support working people. We thank you for lifting the ban on collective bargaining, but we also are asking for you to pass collective bargaining for home care providers so they too can gain a seat at the table. I want to share briefly that being a government worker of 35 years, I desire to retire in the near future. However, when I retire, I need to see that my take-home pension would be comfortable enough for me to pay my monthly expenses. Also, I believe that vacations and time spent with my family are pertinent to a healthy lifestyle. I am witnessing my past co-workers who are retired that have re-entered the workforce for supplemental pay to keep up with the skyrocketing cost of living. That's not my plan. I will forever volunteer and support my community, but I have no desires to return to the workforce. Thank you for this opportunity, and we look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Sarah Langley.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, so I thank you for your time today. Okay, just want to turn that on. Thank you. Okay, so off script real quick. I am a licensed clinical psychotherapist. I am a executive leadership coach and an empowerment speaker. How challenging it can be where I provide care and services, therapy services, coaching services to you and your families. My peers and colleagues as well provide services and care to you and your families. But our services can be rather compromised and impacted in providing quality care to you and your families because we're concerned and burdened as a sandwich generation. And that just means that we're caring for our own loved ones, our younger families, our kids, and our significant others, while also caring for our older adults, our loved ones, our parents, our grandparents. And because of the fact that the care workers, the inconsistency, because understandably, they're not getting paid enough, or there's turnover, or they're trying to figure out how to take care of their own families. So no one wins when they are impacted. It impacts our loved ones that we're caring, which impacts us as providers. It therefore can impact you and your families and the services that we provide to you. So that being said, I was shocked to learn how little care providers are paid for such critical work. And this is what led me to join SEIU Virginia 512, where I've been advocating for respect, protection, and fair pay for care workers. As of January 1, Virginia's minimum wage is $12.41, considering the minimum to live. Yet, care providers have been expected to survive on 2/3 of that income. The disparity reflects the deep-seated undervaluing of care work, which is often performed by women, particularly women of color. It's not about it being an unskilled labor. It's actually skilled, compassionate, and essential work. As I mentioned, I'm a clinical licensed psychotherapist, and I'm also a caregiver of 15 years to my parents. I witnessed the trauma inflicted on care providers by poverty, wages, and inadequate protections. Policies like the 16-hour work rule fail to meet the realities of 24/7 patient needs, leaving providers overburdened patients underserved, and caregivers overwhelmed, again, which can impact our quality of work in providing care and services to you and your families. To fix this, care providers need the following: fair compensation so they can focus on their patients without working multiple jobs, comprehensive health benefits to sustain their well-being as they care for others, a seat at the table through collective bargaining to ensure their voices shape the policies affecting them. It is time for our elected officials to act. Support caregivers by ensuring they are paid, protected, and valued for their life-saving work. When caregivers thrive, so do the patients and the families and you we all serve. Thank you for your time, and I urge you to take action for caregivers and families who rely on their dedication. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Derek Max.
Thank you. I hope you could hear me and this is working well. I first wanted to just thank the members present today and the governor for your part in our terrific economy, the budget surpluses. In a time of a difficult economy, you've done a great job. Both parties should be applauded. I am Derek Max with the Thomas Jefferson Institute for Public Policy. I just want to speak quickly on 3 proposals and hopefully gain your support as the session opens. First of all, I think it should be non-controversial to extend the increase in the standard deduction. I think this policy hits the middle class, which is needed, and I think it spurs growth, and I think it coordinates well with federal tax laws, and I think support for its extension should be non-controversial and bipartisan. I also want to speak strongly in favor of the governor's proposal for opportunity scholarships. There's no greater civil rights issue of our time than the performance of our low-income students. As you know, in our NAEP scores, there's a 31% or 31-point gap in 4th grade reading between low-income and non-low-income students, and a 28-point gap in 8th grade reading. The scores are similar, and the gap is similar for math, and this is just unacceptable. These gaps carry out in the workforce, they carry out throughout life, and they reduce hope. I believe the governor's opportunity scholarships will provide opportunities for parents to find an alternative that may work better for their children, and we are at a desperate time for some of our students. We have to do something, and if it requires increase in public funding for the public schools as well, I would do whatever you can not to dismiss this out of hand. I think the governor's made a fair proposal, and I hope rather than just oppose it outright, as I'm sure the unions would want you to do, I believe it deserves a closer look at our students in particular. And this comes from someone who taught in the inner city in Washington, D.C. and founded a school for low-income students. We cannot wait any longer. I would also just want to just express my support for the governor's proposal on the car tax. The car tax, again, disproportionately hurts the poor. I think the governor has made a proposal to help them. I understand that this funding is critical to localities, and we have actually talked to every locality about the car tax. They find it frustrating and difficult, administratively burdensome and ineffective. There's got to be a better way to fund our localities. But in the short term, while we work on that, I believe the governor's proposal on the car tax is the right way to go. We need to find another revenue source to fund our localities. The car tax is a terrible one, as it limits the ownership of cars and the ability to find work outside of your local community. Finally, I would just say I support the no tax on tips, and I hope they'll consider that carefully as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Paquette, if you would like to speak now.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Carol Paquette. I'm a founder of Arlington Neighborhood Village, past president of the National Village to Village Network, and currently the convener of Virginia Villages Collective. Villages are community-based organizations harnessing the power of volunteers to help older adults age in the homes and communities that they love. I apologize for missing my spot earlier this morning. I just didn't realize I'd been accepted on the speakers list. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak at the end of the session. I'm here today to seek your support to address a serious public health issue. As you know, the Surgeon General has reported that the U.S. is experiencing an epidemic of social isolation. This results in serious cognitive and physical health risks, especially among older adults. Community-based programs like villages are recognized as a key way to address this public health problem. The Virginia Villages Collective is requesting funding to expand the statewide village network to help thousands of older Virginians safely age in their homes connected to a caring community. Here's how an Arlington Neighborhood Village member describes her experience. I have been a grateful village member for many years. They came to my rescue during the pandemic when I developed serious medical problems. At a time when I felt alone and stressed, it was truly comforting to have the company of a village friend. The village set up medical rides for me. They even did my grocery shopping. Now the village has matched me as a pen pal with a fourth grader in the community. I truly look forward to each correspondence from this young girl, which brings me such joy. This is just one of hundreds of examples of how villages reduce social isolation and empower older Virginians to remain safely and independently in their homes. In 2023, Virginia Villages engaged more than 5,000 older adults, volunteers, and family caregivers. We delivered more than 2,000 social programs and logged over 43,800 hours of volunteer service, valued at over $1.5 million. Growing existing villages and starting new ones in underserved areas will enable more older Virginians to access this support. It will help fill a gap in available services for the growing number of older Virginians and their caregivers with limited financial resources who are not eligible for government services. On behalf of the villages in Northern Virginia and the statewide village community, I urge you to approve the budget amendments sponsored by Senator Surville and Delegate Krizek to reduce social isolation of older Virginians by expanding access to villages. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mary McFarland, if you would like to speak now. Mary McFarland. Delegate Tori, and if Mary McFarland is unable to speak, that does conclude our speaker list for this morning.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. To all the citizens who have made their comments, we appreciate them very much. And to our legislators, thank you all for being present. This concludes our meeting.
Hello.
Mary McFarland just hopped on.
Yeah. Hi. I apologize. I'm not tech savvy. Am I here?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hi. First off, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. And my name is Mary McFarland, and I am a former caregiver, almost 30 years, for my precious daughter, Amy McFarland, who had special needs and tragically passed away from ARDS, acute respiratory, July 20th of 2023. Amy had serious breathing complications, and in addition to inhalers, she used an oxygen concentrator and a ventilator to help her with her breathing. We're in a very rural area, and we have power outages quite often when there's bad weather. And on one occasion, we had no power for 5 days. Due to my precious daughter's breathing issues, under her waiver, she qualified for the grant that should have helped with the generator she needed to run her equipment to help her to breathe. But due to all the red tape surrounding the process, we worked with DBHDS on getting her generator for 1.5 years. Some of the things that they wanted were to sign a document that I would pay any amount over the $5,000, which was her allocation under her waiver. I did, and then it came back, well, your generator's too large, which we downsized. I got an estimate from Winchester Electric for a smaller one. And then, of course, we were told that we can only have one to run her medical equipment, meaning her generator, her ventilator and her concentrator, or meds that needed refrigeration, which to me, it just made no sense, because when you have someone who is very compromised to begin with, it should be considered a generator enough to run heat in the winter, air conditioning in the summer, and food for very vulnerable Virginians. And along with these barriers and an outdated allocation of only $5,000, my daughter died while awaiting for a much needed generator in the event of a power outage. And as I mentioned, we tried for 1.5 years to get Amy a generator. And I would like to add that the $5,000 allocation on the waivers, it's been $5,000 since 1994. 30 years later, it's still $5,000. And I share this story because it directly links to the legislation that is negatively impacting those who provide care in Virginia and the rest of the country. Just as the amount of the grant for medical equipment is very outdated, so is the compensation for caregivers, as well as the rules around where they can work. My daughter spent 29 days of her life, her last 29 days of her life, in the ICU at UVA Hospital. And this was a grueling time for me and her boyfriend, Dan, who stepped in to provide care for her day and night and never left her side. He and other personal care attendants are not compensated for the time that those they care for are in inpatient care or rehab, and nor are they able to access medical benefits through their job if they get sick, on top of not being able to afford the average health care plan due to their meager pay. Something needs to change. Our system is broken when it comes to caregiving and our most vulnerable Virginians. And that is why I'm a proud member of SEIU 512. I don't claim to be an expert, but I do have some idea on how legislation can address the problems that I have listed. First, I propose there being compensation for PCAs, personal care attendants, whose clients are inpatient, possibly with indemnity insurance, because as we know, caregivers are scarce, and when their consumer goes into the hospital or a nursing home for rehab, they have to go elsewhere to provide care for someone else, because they cannot go a week even, let alone a month or more, without a paycheck. And as I said, there also needs to be updated legislation for the costs it takes to provide care, both for the equipment, the environmental modifications, and durable medical equipment raised from the antiquated $5,000 allocation it takes, as well as the human factor, which cannot be automated. While we've seen it happen with other industries like fast food and manufacturing, care cannot be given without a human touch. It takes an observant caregiver to pay attention to changes in eating habits, speech, personality, stools, vitals, and comprehension that can save lives, in addition to the paperwork and phone calls and medical appointments that are involved with our consumers. And it is time that we started paying caregivers the compensation that they deserve, so that the field of providing care can continue to support the growing population of people that will need care in the decades to come. With the high cost of placing vulnerable Virginians in nursing homes versus the money saved by providing in-home care at a fraction of the cost, it is a win-win for not only the consumers, who would much rather be in their communities and not just viewing life from a nursing home window, but also for our state due to the significant savings with in-home care. Thank you for hearing my story and learning of the legacy of my precious daughter, Amy. These proposals to the budget will not help my precious daughter, Amy, now, but I am continue to carry on her legacy of advocating for those who are not able to advocate for themselves. And I thank you in advance for acknowledging through legislation that, much like the case of my sweet daughter, care cannot wait. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, I want to say to all of the citizens who took time to speak to us today, we appreciate it so very much. To our legislators who are with us today, thank you as well. And to staff who have given us the support that we needed today to hear from the citizens of the Commonwealth, we appreciate it so very much. My colleagues at the General Assembly look forward to seeing you all next week so that we can address some of these concerns that we have heard today. God bless you all and have a wonderful weekend. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.